Okay, good afternoon everyone. So your limbs are over. We are starting with the trunk. So first is the thorax. So today introduction of thorax and thoracic cage, that will be including the intercostal space, thoracic wall and the contents. Please settle down fast. So any one of you can explain me what is thorax, what is the region, how you describe the region of thorax. The region of the trunk that is lying between the neck and the abdomen is the thorax. So your thorax is bounded externally by the soft tissue, that is the skin, fascia, some muscles that you have already read in the upper limb also, pectoral region. After that there will be the bony thoracic cage, and underneath that thoracic cage there will be the viscera and the lining of the viscera. Other than the viscera, it contains the important vessels. So this is the thorax. So before beginning the thorax, I would like to show you some surface anatomy of the thorax, though you have seen this earlier also. So one is the sternum. So all of you know what are the parts of the sternum: manubrium, body and the Xiphi sternum. Then you have suprasternal notch, that is the notch above the manubrium or between the two clavicles, that is the suprasternal notch. It derives its name as it is located onto the superior border of the manubrium. Now what are costal cartilages and what is costal margin? So costal is the term referring to the ribs. So costal margin is the lower margin in the thoracic cage. So this green line, this is showing you the costal margin. So this costal margin is formed by the lower ribs. That means 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th ribs. They form the costal margin on the right and left side. Then you have costal cartilages. What is costal cartilage? Any of the anterior end of the ribs which are joining to the sternum, they are binding through a cartilage that is called as the costal cartilages. Now how the thoracic cage is formed? So if you can see in this picture, anteriorly you can see the sternum. This is the manubrium of the sternum, this is body of the sternum, and this is the xiphoid process. Posteriorly running along you have a vertebral column. Which region, how many? So this is the thoracic cage which is bounded anteriorly by the sternum, posteriorly by the thoracic vertebrae. Thoracic vertebrae are 12 in number, T1 to T12. Laterally it is bounded by the ribs. Ribs are also 12 in number, which are running from the posterior end to the anterior end. So posterior end, that means the posterior end will be lying towards the vertebra. This will be the posterior end and this region will be the anterior end of the ribs. So thoracic cage is bounded by the sternum, vertebral column and the ribs. Now this thoracic cage is formed by the ribs, and in these ribs there are some true ribs, false ribs and the floating ribs. Floating ribs, I guess all of you know that they are 11 and 12. They are floating because only the posterior end of ribs, they are attached to the vertebra. They are not coming anteriorly. While the above, that is the first 7 pair of the ribs, they are true as you have the joining ends, anterior and the posterior ends. So both the posterior end and the anterior end, they are bounding posteriorly to the vertebra and anteriorly to the sternum. So they are called as the true ribs till 7. So first 7 pair of ribs, they are true ribs. After that 8, 9, 10. They are using the help of the 7th costal cartilage and they are getting attached to the sternum. So they are called as the false ribs. So it is a concept of true ribs, false ribs and the floating ribs. Now what is the shape of the thoracic cavity? In case of infants and in case of adults, there is a difference in the shape of the thoracic cavity. In the little ones, that is the infants, it is circular in shape, while in adults, you can see it is kidney shaped. If it is kidney shaped, it means its anterior-posterior diameter and the transverse diameters, they are different. So which diameter is more, anterior-posterior or transverse? Transverse diameter is more. Then coming to the thoracic inlet. Thoracic inlet is the region of the first thoracic vertebra from where the thoracic cage will be starting. So this region, you should know what are the boundaries of this region. The boundaries of thoracic cage were vertebra posteriorly, anteriorly sternum, and in between lateral sides, it is bounded by ribs. Now this thoracic inlet, the boundaries posteriorly it is T1 thoracic vertebra, anteriorly it is superior border of the manubrium, laterally it is bounded by the medial border of the ribs. So medial border of first rib will be bounding laterally. Please come in. Laterally, then what is the angle of inclination of this thoracic inlet? Please don't talk. Who don't want to attend the lecture can leave. I'm not taking any attendance. So angle of inclination, that means from the posterior end to anterior end, if we draw a line, and then from here if we draw a horizontal line posteriorly to the vertebra, thoracic vertebra, it is reaching the third thoracic vertebra. So from T1, that is T1 and the superior border of the manubrium, they are not at the same level. So that means there is some inclination. This inclination is of 45 degree, and if you measure it from the vertebra, T1 vertebra till T3 vertebra, T3 vertebra is the level of the superior border of the sternum. So this is 3.7 centimeter. Now this, I still can hear the murmuring. Last row I'll throw you out. So Simpson's fascia, that is also called as suprapleural membrane. There is a membrane that is covering the apex of the lung. Now this membrane is extending from the C7. I hope you know C7 is cervical vertebra 7. The transverse process of C7 to the inner border of first rib. So this is the picture showing you the transverse process of the C7 vertebra. From here it is extending to the inner border of the first rib. So what is the use of this suprapleural membrane? Any guesses? If there is some membrane or fascia is present onto the apex of the lung, what will be the purpose of this? And it is also a root of the lung. Produces pressure or prevents collapse. If your lungs are inspirating air, what they will do, they will expand and they will come out of the root of the lung. So as to prevent it, so they may remain in the thoracic cavity. So there is a Simpson's fascia that is protecting it. What is Simpson's fascia actually? It is a degenerated flattened tendon of scalenus minimus muscle. So you have to remember this, that it is a degenerated flattened tendon of a scalenus muscle. You have scalenus medius muscle also. This is scalenus minimus muscle. So functions are protection of the cervical pleura and the apex of the lung and provides rigidity to the thoracic inlet. So that's preventing pulling up and the down structures of the root of neck. Root of neck has several structures like trachea, esophagus, arteries, veins. So it keeps the protection onto those structures. Now what are the structures that are passing through the thoracic inlet? So this is the thoracic inlet, which was bounded by posteriorly first thoracic vertebra, anteriorly superior border of the manubrium, laterally medial border of the first rib. So you can see several structures that are passing through this area. So for ease of reading, I have written down it like this. Viscera, what are the viscera that are passing through this? They are trachea, esophagus, thymus, apex of the lung. In the vessels, we have brachiocephalic artery, common carotid artery, subclavian artery, internal thoracic arteries, superior intercostal arteries, and the posterior intercostal arteries. That is only the first posterior intercostal artery. So these are the structures that are passing through the root of the neck. Other than that, you have the nerve, phrenic nerve, vagus nerve, sympathetic trunk, T1 nerve, and the muscles. These muscles we will be dealing with them in the head and neck region: sternohyoid, sternothyroid, and longus cervicis. So these are the structures that will be passing through the thoracic inlet. You can see these structures here also. So anterior to posterior, if you go, you will find the muscles. Then you will find the thymus gland, vein. This is trachea, esophagus, and lateral to it, you will find the portions of the lung. These are the apex of the lungs. Now, what is thoracic inlet syndrome? There are so many structures passing through the thoracic inlet. So if any compression occurs, there will be a syndrome. So syndrome involves multiple symptoms. So what will be the multiple symptoms that will be arising? So there is a passage of T1 nerve. If in case it gets compressed, it will give numbness, tingling sensation to T1. किसको supply करता है? Ventral rami of T1 is the part of the brachial plexus. किसे supply कर रहा है? ब्रेकियल प्लेक्सस में कहाँ जा रहा है? T1 रूट वैल्यू कहाँ पे सप्लाई कर रही है? किस किस नर्व में T1 आता है? So the numbness, tingling, pain sensation along the medial side of forearm and hand, and the wasting of hand muscles. Why wasting of hand muscles? Then due to compression of subclavian artery. There is a passage for the subclavian artery. So ischemic symptoms in the upper limb will occur. That is pallor, coldness of the upper limb. So that are the ischemic symptoms that can be found because of the subclavian artery compression. Next is the inferior thoracic aperture. You have thoracic inlet, thoracic cavity, and the thoracic outlet. So this inferior thoracic aperture is also called as thoracic outlet. So inlet, you have seen the boundaries. Thoracic cage, you already know the contents, that is heart and lung, they are bounded in the thoracic cage. What is guarding the thoracic outlet? Diaphragm is guarding the thoracic outlet. So what are the boundaries? Anteriorly, you will see the intrasternal angle, that is the subcostal angle towards the ZP sternum. Posteriorly, it will be bounded by the T12 vertebra. Laterally, costal margin formed by 7 to 10 costal cartilages, and posteriorly 11th and 12th ribs. So this will be the boundary of the thoracic outlet or the inferior thoracic aperture. Next, coming to the thoracic wall, in which we will be dealing with the muscles and the mechanism of respiration. So thoracic walls. The thoracic wall, when it starts, which region is called as the thoracic wall? Thoracic wall क्या होगा? Thoracic cage बना था, bony thoracic cage. अब उसकी cementing होगी. So that will be forming the thoracic wall. So that thoracic wall is formed by several muscles. So all the muscles, intercostal muscles, that are present between each of the intercostal spaces. Intercostal space is any two adjacent ribs. There is a space that is called as the intercostal space. You all have seen thoracic cage, bony thoracic cage. Yes or no? Yes. So you understand if the two ribs, adjacent two ribs, they have a space that is called as the intercostal space. Yes. Okay, then the bony thoracic cage and the muscles that lie between the ribs, that is called as the thoracic wall. Externally, when you will start doing dissection, it will be covered with the skin, fascia, and you have dissected the pectoral region. So you have already seen the pectoral group of muscles. So that were onto the outer side of the thoracic cage. Then these are all supplied by the intercostal nerves and vessels. All of the intercostal spaces, they have individual intercostal vein, artery and nerve. Each of them will be supplying each group of the muscles. So the thoracic wall is covered with the skin, nipples, areola, superficial fascia containing the mammary gland. You have already read the mammary gland, then deep fascia and the muscles. What are the muscles here? This is the line diagram. If we go from outer to inner side, first red line is demarcating the external intercostal muscle. Second is showing you the internal intercostal muscle. And third one is showing you, this is the innermost intercostal muscle. Now from this line diagram, you can see between the second and third muscle, that is the internal intercostal and innermost intercostal, there is vein, artery and a nerve. So this region is the costal groove of a rib where the vein, artery and a nerve is lying. So these are intercostal veins, this is intercostal artery and this is intercostal nerve. The arrangement in the costal groove, it is vein, artery and the nerve. So where do you find the costal groove? Onto the lower border of all the ribs. Lower border of all ribs, they are having the costal groove, and the costal content of the costal groove is vein, artery and the nerve. Now the intercostal spaces, the gap between the ribs is called as intercostal space. How many intercostal spaces will be there? 11 intercostal spaces will be there. Only 9 pairs will be extending anteriorly. Do you understand? Only 9 pairs extend anteriorly. Any confusion in this line? So explain me if you don't have any confusion. Why 9 pairs only? Last row. So you only have the 9 pairs that are extending anteriorly. Why? Floating ribs हैं 10 तक ही anteriorly they are connecting. So intercostal spaces, I've already explained you that they are filled with the intercostal muscles and the membranes. Wherever the muscles will be deficient, it will be filled by the membranes. Then third to sixth intercostal spaces, they are typical intercostal spaces. Why? They are only the typical, rest of them are atypical, because they are supplying the arteries, veins and the nerves which are there. They are supplying the adjacent structures also. Only the third to sixth intercostal space, vein, artery, nerve, they are confined to its intercostal spaces. The contents of the intercostal space will be all the three muscles, external, internal and innermost, intercostal nerves, arteries, veins and lymphatics. So what are the intrinsic muscles of the thoracic wall? Very easy to remember is external, internal and innermost. Other than this, intrinsic muscles, they are subcostalis, sternocostalis, levator costarum, serratus posterior, superior and inferior. So we will be dealing with these intrinsic muscles of the thoracic wall. So first coming to the external intercostal muscle. So if you can see this picture, this is showing you a one single intercostal space, that is a typical intercostal space. So this is the head of the rib. Here will be lying the tubercle of the rib. So it is starting from the vertebra and it is coming anteriorly. Now anteriorly it is deficient. It is only reaching the costochondral junction. It is not reaching the sternum. So this space will be filled by the membrane, that is the anterior intercostal membrane. So extent of this external intercostal muscle will be extending from the tubercle of rib to the costochondral junction, and the anterior intercostal membrane will be filling the gap between the costochondral junction to the lateral border of the rib. Now what are the direction of the fibers of the external intercostal muscles? It is equivalent to putting your hand into the pocket. That means it is going downward, forward and medially. So these muscle fibers, they are going downward, forward and medially. Action will be the elevation of the ribs in the inspiration. Now if these muscle fibers, they are arising from the lower border of the rib above. Suppose this is the fourth rib and this is the fifth rib. So it is arising from the lower border of fourth rib and it is inserting onto the upper border of the fifth rib. So lower border of the rib above the intercostal space, insertion is onto the outer lip of the upper border of the next rib. So in lower lip, superior border of any rib will be having the outer lip and the inner lip. Onto the outer border, there is attachment of the external intercostal. Onto the inner, there will be attachment of inner intercostal. So try to remember this: lower border of the rib above the intercostal space, any rib, then outer lip of the upper border of the rib below the intercostal space. Explaining it into the words is very difficult if you don't give it a number. Now the actions are elevation of the ribs in inspiration. So if these fibers, they are going from above to downward, when they will contract, the action will be the elevation of these ribs. This rib will be elevated towards the upper side. When these fibers will contract, the length of the fibers will decrease. So that means elevation of rib will occur. Now this elevation of rib will be helpful for you when you will be understanding the respiratory movements. Next, coming to the internal intercostal muscles. Now the internal intercostal muscles, you can see it is deficient posteriorly. It is extending from the lateral border of the sternum and it is going backwards. And posteriorly it is deficient, it cannot reach the vertebra. So that space will be filled by the posterior intercostal membrane. So anterior intercostal membrane is the part of the external intercostal muscle and this posterior intercostal membrane is the part of internal intercostal muscle. Now the fibers, how they arise? Now these fibers, they arise from the floor of the costal groove of the rib above the intercostal space. So this is the costal groove. Costal groove lies onto the lower border of any rib. So lower border of the costal, lower border of rib, that is the costal groove, gives the origin to these fibers. Then these fibers, they are extending to the inner lip of the upper border of the rib. That is towards this side they will be inserting. Here. Inner lip. So direction of fibers will be perpendicular. The fibers of the external intercostal muscles, they were going downward, forward and medially. The direction of these fibers are downward, backward and laterally. So these fibers, they are going down, backward and towards the lateral side. what will happen when these fibers will contract? They will depress the ribs. So the shortening of these fibers will depress these ribs. I'm going a bit fast, but I cannot help it. I have a lot of stuff to tell you. We have just reached 31 slides. I have around 80 slides. So whenever you get saturated, tell me, I will stop my lecture. Okay? Then coming to the innermost intercostal muscles. Innermost intercostal muscle is the third layer of the thoracic wall. So the external and the internal intercostal muscles, they were coming from the posterior end. One was coming from the anterior end. Now this innermost intercostal is only occupying the middle part of the intercostal space. It is deficient posteriorly, it is deficient anteriorly. So anteriorly there will be anterior intercostal membrane, and the next layer will be the fibers of the internal intercostal muscle. Posteriorly, when you come sequence-wise, there will be the external intercostal membrane, external intercostal muscle. Then you have posterior intercostal membrane, and then next you will find the endothoracic fascia. So it occupies the middle 2/4 of the intercostal space. The origin of these muscle fibers, it is middle 2/4 of the ridge above the costal groove. So above the costal groove, this area will be giving the origin to these fibers. Now where they are inserting on the inner surface of the rib below. So this is the inner surface of the rib below. So there the insertion of the innermost intercostal fibers takes place. Okay, there is a one concept earlier in some books you will still find this, that is innermost intercostal muscles has different muscles. That means intercostalis intimus, transversus thoracis and subcostalis. Earlier they were included into the innermost intercostal muscle, but now it is said that innermost intercostal is a separate muscle, subcostalis is a separate muscle, and the transverse thoracis, it is a separate muscle. They are not included into the innermost intercostals. They are studied separately. So you can say any of the concepts, because teachers, they have read this one also and this one also. So they will accept both of these concepts. So this is the subcostalis muscle. Now this subcostalis muscle, these are the slip of the muscle fibers that are found in the lower ribs. So these lower ribs, suppose if the fibers, they are arising from the 12th rib, there will be a gap of one rib, then they will be inserting these fibers. Suppose this is 12th, and then they have jumped to the fibers into the inner surface of the 10th rib. So subcostalis muscle, it lies in the plane of the innermost intercostal muscle. Origin, inner surface of a rib near its angle. You don't understand what is head of the rib, tubercle of the rib and the angle of the rib, because you have not seen the ribs. So just try to understand this region is the head of the rib that is articulating with the body of the thoracic vertebra. There is a tubercle of the rib that is articulating with the transverse process of the thoracic vertebra. Then you have the angle of the rib. So from the posterior end, you have three features: head, tubercle and the angle of the rib. Angle of the rib is that region where the twisting of the ribs that occurs. So this will be the angle of the rib. It will be more clear when we will show you into the osteology lecture. So origin of these fibers, it is inner surface of the rib near its angle, and insertion inner surface of second or third rib below. That is the insertion of these fibers. Now what would be the action? It will again depress the ribs. Next, coming to the transverse thoracis muscle. Now this transverse thoracis muscle, you can see it is spreading from the central region. That means this region we have shown the sternum. So from sternum, it is going towards the costochondral junctions. Sternocostalis muscle, it is around 4 to 5 radiating slip of the muscle fibers which are arising from the lower part of the body of the sternum. Lower 1/3 of the body of sternum gives origin to these fibers. Along with that, you have xiphoid process and the costal cartilages of 3rd and 4th rib. So this region from here, this is the body of the sternum, lower 1/3. Then you have xiphy sternum and the costal cartilages of the lower 3 or 4 true ribs. From here, these fibers, they are radiating towards the 2nd to 6th costal cartilages. So this will be the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th costal cartilage. Now what will happen when these muscles will contract? They will pull the 2nd to 6th costal cartilages downward. Now coming to the diameters of the thoracic cavity. So in the transverse section we have seen adult transverse section was kidney shaped. So you have antero-posterior diameter and the transverse diameter, and if you see in this thoracic cage you have one more diameter, that is the vertical diameter. So when there is inspiration, all the three diameters they increase. So how these diameters are going to increase? So there are different movements that have been made. So first movement is the pump handle movement, that is related to the antero-posterior diameter. During expiration, this was the position of the lung. Then during the inspiration or after elevation, this was the position that was showing that is shown with the purple line. So this is during the inspiration. So these green dotted lines, these are showing you the borders of the rib and the sternum. So here we will see how these rib and the sternum will elevate. So everyone has seen hand pump. Here the hand pump, this handle, this is the sternum. Then you have the liver. This rib is acting as a liver. So from this point, that is passing through the tubercle of the rib, the axis will be passing. Then this divides the rib into two unequal arms. If you understand what is liver, liver has three parts. Do you understand what is liver? क्या क्या पार्ट्स होते हैं लिवर के? फल्क्रम होता है, एफर्ट होता है, लोड होता है. So fulcrum, what is acting as fulcrum is the tubercle of the rib. So it divides the rib into two unequal parts. This is the posterior part and this is the anterior part. So from this position, when the elevation, how the elevation occurs, this unequal, this larger part will elevate the anterior part of the rib, and the sternum will be elevated anteriorly. Why this happens? Because there are movements that are occurring at several joints. What are those joints that are involved? Costovertebral joint. Which joint is termed as costovertebral? Costo is rib. Vertebral term is here for the body of the vertebra. When you will see the thoracic vertebra, you will see the costal facets on the body of the thoracic vertebra as well as onto the transverse process. So one joint involved is costovertebral, that is between the head of the rib and the body of the thoracic vertebra. Next joint involved is costotransverse, that is between the rib and the transverse process of the thoracic vertebra. This involves the tubercle of the rib. Costo mein tubercle of rib is joining with the transverse process of the thoracic vertebra. This is costotransverse joint. Then you have costochondral joint that is involved here. Anterior end of the rib joining with the cartilages. So costochondral. Next is the sternomanubrial joint. What is sternomanubrial joint? Between the manubrium and the body of the sternum. So these joints, they are involved in the pump handle movement. So pump handle movement will elevate the ribs. Only the anterior ends of the ribs will be elevated. This anterior end of the anterior end will be elevated, and along with that the sternum will be elevated. So that will increase the thoracic cavity. Next, coming to the transverse diameter. Now this transverse diameter, for the transverse diameter, your lateral portions of the ribs, they move. So these are the lateral portions of the rib. They are similar to the bucket handle. So this movement is called as bucket handle movement. The muscles involved in the bucket handle movement, they are lower intercostal muscles as well as the diaphragm. Joints involved, they are costovertebral, costotransverse, costochondral joints. Now the axis of movement, it is passing through antero-posteriorly from the costovertebral to the costosternal. So costovertebral is this area and costochondral is this area, costosternal is this area. So this axis will be passing antero-posteriorly. If axis is passing antero-posteriorly, movement will be taken up laterally. So as you pick up the handle of the bucket, in similar position, this middle portion of these ribs, they will be elevated. If the middle portions of these ribs will be elevated, there will be increase in the transverse diameter. Yes? The middle portion of the shaft of the rib, it lies at the lower level than its anterior end and the posterior end. So whenever they will be elevated, they will come in the same position. So if they come into the same position, they will increase the transverse diameter. Next is the vertical diameter. This is very easy. Why the vertical diameter is increasing? Because of the movement of the diaphragm. This movement is called as the piston movement. So during the inspiration, the diaphragm will contract and the descent of the central tendon will take place. When you will study diaphragm, you will know it is a musculo-tendinous structure. Centrally, the tendon is present, and along all the circular structures, this is filled with the muscles. So all the muscles, they are converging onto the tendon. So central tendon is present in the diaphragm. So the central tendon will descend downwards. This will do the flattening of the domes. The diaphragm is located such that they form the domes, right dome and the left dome. So these domes will be flattened. So these domes will flatten, so that will increase the thoracic cavity, and the diaphragm is moving downwards. That side is called as the piston movement. So piston movement for the vertical diameter, bucket handle movement for transverse diameter, and pump handle movement for. Next, coming to the intercostal nerve, vein and artery. So each of the space I have already told you, intercostal space is having its vein, its artery and its nerve. So starting with the intercostal nerve, this intercostal nerve, it is lying in between the inner intercostal and the innermost intercostal. Where they are lying into the costal grooves. What is the relation of these structures lying in the costal groove? Above downwards it is vein, artery and nerve. Okay. So this nerve, we have when we were discussing the upper limb, we told you it is the ventral rami of the muscles that is giving the motor supply. So similarly here in the thoracic region, this is the ventral rami of T1 to T12, which is giving nerve supply, motor nerve supply to the thoracic wall. So intercostal nerves, they are ventral primary rami of the first 11 thoracic spinal nerves. Then the 12th nerve, it becomes the subcostal nerve. Ventral rami of T12 is called as the subcostal nerve. We have already discussed this structure, this picture with you. Can anybody explain me? It was discussed in general anatomy. कोई बता पाएगा? थोड़ा बहुत? No? What is this picture is showing? Spinal cord, section of a spinal cord. At which level? The whole of the spinal cord looks like this. T1 to 12 by T1 to L2. कौन है खड़ा होता है? क्यों L2? बैठ जाओ. Anyone else? Lateral horn is present there. What does it signify? Lateral horn दिख रहा है. सार्थक, lateral horn दिख रहा है तो किस रीजन का स्पाइनल कॉर्ड होगा? कहाँ पे दिखता है लेटरल हॉर्न स्पाइनल कॉर्ड में? बुक खोलो, गूगल करो, कुछ करो, आंसर तुम ही दोगे. लंबर रीजन किसका है? किसके लंबर रीजन की स्पाइनल कॉर्ड ऐसी है? बैठ जाओ. और कोई? T12 और लंबार रीजन वाला. सर्वाइकल है? पेनफुल आंसर. नेक्स्ट, थोरेसिक. वाई थोरेसिक है? क्यों है? ऐसा क्या दिख रहा है जो थोरेसिक बोल रहे हो? लेटरल हॉर्न प्रेजेंट है इसलिए थोरेसिक है. So this is the intermediate horns of the spinal cord. From here the fibers, they will be arising. Next you will be telling me this. What is this? This is dorsal root and this is ventral root. the fibers that are arising from the ventral root, they are entering the sympathetic chain. So if they are entering the sympathetic chain, there are two terms, gray rami communicants and the white rami communicants. What do you understand by those terms? Which is called as gray rami communicants and which is called as white rami communicants? Anyone? Typical spinal nerve का structure पढ़ के आना, ये तुम्हारा homework है. I'm coming to the typical intercostal nerves. So typical intercostal space was defined as a structures that are not dealing with any other structures other than the intercostal space. So they were confined to only typical intercostal spaces, that is third to sixth intercostal space. So similarly, typical intercostal nerves will be third to sixth intercostal nerve. Now, what structures in addition to the intercostal space, what are the other structures that are supplied by the first intercostal nerve? First intercostal nerve, everybody knows that it is a part of brachial plexus. Second intercostal nerve, it was giving a cutaneous branch, that is intercostobrachial branch. So it was supplying the medial side of the arm. So these are the two nerves that are not included into the typical intercostal nerve. Other than this, you have 7, 8, 9 intercostal nerves that are supplying the region of the abdomen. So they are also involved other than the thoracic wall. So this is the summary of the intercostal nerves. They are the ventral rami of T1 to T11 spinal nerves. Typical intercostal nerves, they are confined to the chest wall, that is third to sixth nerve or third to sixth intercostal space. First, everybody knows it is a part of the ventral rami. It is a part of the brachial plexus. Second is a part of the it is giving a branch, intercostal brachial branch, and 7 to 11, it is going to the abdomen. Then what is the course of a typical intercostal nerve? Intercostal vessels and nerves, they are lying in the second and third layer of the thoracic wall. So till the costal groove, when you reach, there is a sympathetic ganglion that is running lateral to the vertebrae. So before it reaches the sympathetic trunk, it lies behind the sympathetic trunk between the costal pleura and posterior intercostal membrane. Why I have written the between the pleura and the posterior intercostal membrane? It is self-explanatory. Yes? What you will find posteriorly? किस लेयर के बीच में होता है? इंटरनल इंटरकॉस्टल और इनरमोस्ट इंटरकॉस्टल के बीच में. इंटरनल इंटरकॉस्टल पोस्टीरियरली प्रेजेंट होती है? नहीं होती है. क्या प्रेजेंट होता है? इंटरकॉस्टल मेम्ब्रेन. तो वन लाइन इज पोस्टीरियर इंटरकॉस्टल मेम्ब्रेन. उसके आगे जो इनरमोस्ट इंटरकॉस्टल है पोस्टीरियरली डेफिशिएंट है, इट इज प्रेजेंट ओनली इन द मिडिल फोर्थ. So next layer that you will be finding will be the endothoracic fascia and the pleura. So it is running the course of this intercostal nerve posteriorly starting from the vertebra. When it comes out through the intervertebral foramen, it is running behind the sympathetic trunk between the costal pleura and the endothoracic fascia along with the posterior intercostal membrane. Right? Then in the costal groove. In the costal groove, it is lying between the two layers, that is the internal intercostal and the innermost intercostal muscles. So any artery, any vein within the costal groove will be running in between the internal intercostal muscle and the innermost intercostal muscle. Then what are the branches of the intercostal nerves? They are rami communicants. That was white rami communicants and the gray rami communicants. These are the branches from the intercostal muscles. Then it is giving the supply to the thoracic wall. So muscular branches for the intercostal muscles. It gives collateral branches and it pierces the fascia to come out to supply the lateral wall of the thoracic region and the anterior wall of the thoracic region. So it gives lateral cutaneous branch and the anterior cutaneous branches. So these are the branches from the typical intercostal nerve. So now you can see this course. This is the intervertebral foramina. Between the two vertebra, adjacent vertebra, there will be the intervertebral foramina. From here, the nerves will come out. So till this portion, this is lying between the posterior intercostal membrane and the inner and this pleura. So this is the course of intercostal nerve till the sympathetic chain. When it runs in the costal groove, it is lying between the internal intercostal and the innermost intercostal. Now these are the fibers that are running into the costal groove. Now you can see anteriorly it is piercing the inner intercostal and anterior intercostal membrane to come out and give the anterior cutaneous branch. Similarly onto the lateral wall, it will pierce the internal intercostal and the external intercostal muscle to give the lateral cutaneous branch, which will further divide into the anterior branch and the posterior branch. So course we have already discussed. Relations, I have told you, if you go from above downward, there is posterior intercostal vein, then artery, then nerve. This we have discussed, this anterior cutaneous nerve. It will come anteriorly after piercing the anterior intercostal membrane to supply the anterior surface of the thoracic wall. Now what are the peculiar features of the first intercostal nerve? It is a atypical intercostal nerve because it is supplying other than the thoracic wall. So it contributes to the brachial plexus. It forms the lower trunk of the brachial plexus. Then it runs under the first rib. Why it runs under the first rib? Because first rib doesn't contain any costal groove. So it is running onto the inferior surface of the first rib. And it doesn't give any collateral and anterior cutaneous branches. These are the peculiar features for the atypical nerve, that is the first intercostal nerve. Now the clinical parts, when you do the thoracocentesis. So thoracocentesis is done to tap out the fluid. So pleural recess is the area where the pleural fluid will be accumulated. This happens if there is any pleural abscess. So that is the accumulation of more of the pleural fluid that is leading to the pleural effusion. So this pleural effusion fluid, this collects into the recess, that is called as the pleural recess. What is pleural recess? In between the pleura and the lung, there is a space. Okay, that is a potential space that is present between the lower border of this lung and the lower border of the pleura. Now this space is filled with the abscess during the pleural effusion. So tapping of this is done, which is called as the thoracocentesis. So where we have to do the thoracocentesis? Thoracocentesis will be done into the lower ribs, not into the upper ribs, because there will be the lung parenchyma will be present in the upper ribs. So it is done into the 8th or 9th intercostal space where the lung will be ending and pleural space will be left. Then we have to go along the upper border of the rib. Why we cannot run along the inner border of the rib? Because it is the intercostal groove, it is a costal groove which is present, which is containing the vein, artery and nerve. So if you don't want to injure it, you have to go superior border of the lower rib. So this is the area where we insert the needle for the pleural tap. Next, coming to the intercostal arteries. Now these intercostal arteries, they are 11 in number. Each of the intercostal space, it is containing the intercostal arteries. We have anterior intercostal artery and the posterior intercostal artery running into the space. Why anterior and posterior? Because the posterior cannot extend up till the anterior thoracic wall. So the arteries, main arteries which were running along the parasternal region, they are giving branches that are the anterior intercostal arteries. So into the intercostal space, intercostal arteries are arranged in the two groups, anterior and posterior. So posterior intercostal arteries are 11 in number. Now these arteries, they take origin from the different arteries. So superior intercostal artery, it gives the origin to the first and second. Rest of them, they are arising from the descending thoracic aorta. Okay, in this picture that was showing the branches of the arteries. बातें करने के लिए तो बोला नहीं है मैंने. Okay, we were here. So superior intercostal artery. So here we can see this is the superior intercostal artery which is giving the first and second posterior intercostal artery. Lower down as you go, this is the descending thoracic aorta. One is the ascending aorta, arch of aorta, and this is descending aorta. So from descending aorta, you have all the arteries, 3rd to 11th pair of the posterior intercostal arteries which are arising from the descending thoracic aorta. Now what is the course and relation in the costal groove? बताओ क्या होता है relation? सब बोल रहे हैं, बस कर दो मैम. So course and relation सबको पता है, मैं दोबारा repeat नहीं कर रही हूँ. It is a neurovascular bundle that is running between the two muscle layers that I have already explained to you. Now how do they terminate? They terminate by anastomosing with the arteries that are present onto the anterior thoracic wall, that is anterior intercostal arteries के साथ anastomose करते हैं and they will terminate here. So they anastomose with the superior branch of the anterior intercostal artery. Into the anterior intercostal artery we have two branches, superior and inferior. What are the branches of posterior intercostal artery? They are dorsal branch, muscular branches, collateral branches, lateral cutaneous branch. Mammary gland is located there, so some mammary branches are there. And you have right bronchial artery that is arising from the 3rd posterior intercostal artery. So इस पूरी branches की list में से you have to remember right bronchial artery arising from the 3rd posterior intercostal, which is coming from the descending thoracic aorta. Now the anterior intercostal arteries, they are 9 in number, and you have upper and lower division in the anterior intercostal arteries. So we have two arteries, superior and inferior anterior intercostal arteries. Now these anterior intercostal arteries, from where they are coming? Descending thoracic aorta was going posteriorly. So the branches for the posterior space was coming from the descending thoracic aorta. Anteriorly you have the branches, that is the internal thoracic artery and the musculophrenic artery. So these are the main arteries which will be giving the branches, that is the anterior intercostal artery. You have to just learn the division, that is 1st to 6th pair. This is coming from the internal thoracic artery. After 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th, it is coming from the musculophrenic artery. Similar will be the venous drainage. Okay, so when we will study the intercostal veins, next topic, the veins will be draining into the same name, veins. Next is this intercostal veins. Now these intercostal veins, they are 2 anterior and 1 posterior intercostal vein. Similar was the picture with the arteries. There was 1 posterior intercostal artery and 2 anterior intercostal arteries. So they are 1 posterior intercostal vein, 2 anterior intercostal veins. So anterior intercostal veins, they will be draining into the 1st to 6th. They will be draining internal thoracic vein. 7 to 9 will be draining into the musculophrenic vein. ठीक है? Posterior intercostal veins, they will be draining on, they are present on the each side and they will be draining into the azygous system of veins. Azygous system of veins, there is a separate lecture for the azygous veins. So they will teach you about how these posterior intercostal veins, they are draining through the azygous system. Then coming to the last topic, that is trachea. So trachea क्या होता है? How does the trachea start? किस location से start होता है trachea? How does the air enters the trachea? कैसे जाएगी? कोई एक बताएगा? तुम बताओ. हाँ. अरे एयर पूछा है, अंदर कैसे जाती है? वेरी गुड. नेज़ोफैरिंक्स यहाँ पहुंच गया. हाँ. नेज़ोफैरिंक्स कहाँ होता है? नाक के पीछे. यहाँ नहीं होता, गले के पीछे नहीं होता. हाँ. नोज में एंटर करी, नेज़ोफैरिंक्स में एंटर करी, फिर फैरिंक्स का पार्ट ही है नेज़ोफैरिंक्स. लैरिंगोफैरिंक्स, फिर लैरिंक्स कंटिन्यूज एज ट्रैकिया. तो लैरिंक्स कहते हैं कार्टिलेजिनस स्ट्रक्चर है. ठीक है, बैठ जाओ. तो ट्रैकिया भी क्या है? कार्टिलेजिनस स्ट्रक्चर है. सो ट्रैकिया हैज C-shaped cartilages. So all of you have seen the slide of the trachea. What type of cartilage it is? Hyaline cartilage. So you have C-shaped rings that are bounding the trachea anteriorly, but the posteriorly this ring is incomplete. So trachea is located in the lower part of the neck in the superior mediastinum. So there is also a separate topic for the mediastinum. So any of the person who is dealing with the mediastinum will tell you about the trachea again too. So extent of the trachea, it is a continuation of the larynx. So try to remember this. This is the larynx. These cartilages, these are the part of the larynx. Cricoid cartilage. The level of the cricoid cartilage is C6 vertebra. So trachea is extending from the C6 vertebra to T6 vertebra. So it is extending till the lower border of T6. But this was a previous concept. One more concept is there that is extending only up to the T4. So at T4 it divides into the right and left principal bronchi. So if in MCQ it comes, then you have to take T4 vertebra. Now what is the length of the trachea and what is the diameter? Length is around 1 scale length, that is around 10 to 11 centimeter. And diameter is around 1.5 to 2 centimeter. Now what will be the relation, anterior relation? Roll number 160, खड़े हो जाओ. Yes. हाँ, आप ही हैं. So you have anterior relation, posterior relation, right and left relations. So anteriorly, when you remove the manubrium sterni, you can see several vessels that are covering the trachea. So that are forming the anterior relation of the trachea. So after manubrium sterni, you have vein, you have artery, so you have, क्या बात है? बोला है ना मैंने, last topic है. Manubrium sterni, you have left brachiocephalic vein. So this is covering the trachea. Next is brachiocephalic trunk, left common carotid artery, arch of aorta, deep cardiac plexus and the thymus. So these will be coming into the anterior relations of the trachea. What will be present posteriorly? Behind the trachea is the esophagus. So posterior relation, there will be esophagus, and in between the tracheo-esophageal groove, there is a nerve that is running, which is the left recurrent laryngeal nerve. So there is a tracheo-esophageal groove here, just behind the trachea and the starting of the esophagus. It is present laterally. So this groove contains left recurrent laryngeal nerve. So posterior relations are esophagus, nerve, and the most posterior will be the anterior surface of the vertebrae. On the right and left, you have the lung and the pleura. So you have on the right side, right lung, right pleura, right vagus nerve and the azygous vein onto the right side. What is present on the left? When you will see the mediastinal surface of the lung, you will see that the azygous vein, arch of azygous vein is there and arch of aorta is there. Arch of aorta is present onto the left side of the lung. They give an impression on the left lung, and this azygous vein, it gives impression onto the mediastinal surface of the right lung. So onto the right relation we have azygous vein. Opposite to that we have arch of aorta. Arch of aorta, left common carotid artery, subclavian artery and the left lung. So these are the relations onto the left side.